Welcome guys, and thank you for tuning in to this video. This is quite an impromptu type video that I've decided to do. I saw a headline by one of my favorite YouTubers, Tony and Chelsea Northrup. They have a fantastic photography channel, and they do podcasts, and I was watching one recently called "Is Photography Dying?" and I thought it was a really interesting topic, so I decided to do my own video. So my thoughts are, yes, it's dying. We need to get out. We need a new industry. Let's get out of here, guys. We gotta do something while we can. No, I'm joking. Basically, the photography industry is very intriguing at the moment because there's lots of things happening. I mean, at one stage you had people buying these tiny point and shoot cameras, and these were for amateurs, obviously people just wanting to take pictures of their holiday or pictures, you know, of their family, their kids. They'd just buy a little point and shoot camera, and that was good. Now you have a different situation where you've got phone cameras, and now the development that these phone companies have made, the progression in their cameras has superseded that of the basic point and shoot cameras. So there's no need for these point and shoot cameras. And I should also mention, this has all come about because there's been a lot of talk lately about the drop in camera sales in camera stores, and I think this mainly applies to this particular group of point and shoot cameras. I don't think it applies as much to pro cameras. What I mean by pro cameras is cameras where you can change lenses, the bigger cameras that professionals use, like myself. But this is more for those enthusiasts, those amateurs looking to just take pictures of their holiday or pictures of their family, or just looking to get started with photography and have something to use. So yeah, you've got this situation with the point and shoot cameras where there's literally no need for them anymore. Camera phones have progressed so quickly that it really doesn't make sense, which is why I can see why the drop in camera sales for those beginner cameras have gone down. With regards to the professional cameras, the interchangeable lens cameras, the pro cameras, I do see a lot of great progress with mirrorless cameras and whatnot, but I do see that people are starting to cotton on to the fact of whether they need to actually upgrade their camera. I know that mirrorless is fantastic because it offers lots of benefits like face recognition, you know, peaking, and these are you know, terms that I'm using, but they help you to focus quicker, basically, if you don't know much about what I'm talking about. They're tools that enable the camera to focus on a subject far quicker than it would with a traditional DSLR camera. These digital cameras, which is what mirrorless is, they're more digital based. I mean, they're all digital cameras, but mirrorless cameras, they are more based on technology and software than they are on the actual mechanics within the camera. So they're called mirrorless cameras or system cameras, and that is the new type of camera that has been coming out recently, and a lot of the camera companies are jumping on this bandwagon, and it's great because I love mirrorless cameras. But I will say that there is those that will see that, I mean, obviously a lot of these cameras now are advertising 4K capabilities, and I have my issues with 4K. I think that I don't think the technology is there yet for 4K. I think you have to have a very fast computer to edit video in 4K. I think also you have to have a lot of storage to be able to store so many files in 4K. Your storage will fill up very quickly, so you're spending more money on hard drives, you're spending more money on your computer, and it's just you're spending more time, actually rendering and in processing. So it's costing you money to use 4K. There's not many people, I think, even if you had a 4K camera, that would film everything in 4K. And that's my issue. I think that a lot of the top cameras, what they're trying to sell you on, which a lot of them are trying to sell you on 4K, I don't think that many people are ready for that yet. And not only do people not watch 4K, in terms of normally on the TV isn't in 4K. You have to get DVDs and movies to be in 4K. So I think these are issues. I think that it's to persuade people with the DSLR technology to move to mirrorless, and I don't think that people are going to let go of their cameras. Like, I use a Canon 6D. It was out years ago, but it still takes fantastic pictures. It's still a great camera. It still matches anything that's out now. So in terms of the advancements in technology, it's not been that great in terms of your final product, but there's lots of features and little gadgets within cameras now that might make you want to switch to the next one. But I don't think it's enough if you don't have the money to convince lots of people to do that. I think most people will just hold on to their normal DSLR cameras, and I think a lot of people are twigging onto this. I've only recently bought a camera that's 6, 7, 8 years old, maybe even more than that, because I realized that the technology within that camera was perfect. The only difference is that now there's lots of features which you don't necessarily need as a pro, especially for photography. Video is another thing. Video is a little bit different because video moves and it progresses. However, I'm filming this video on a Sony a6000, you'd be surprised to know, and that does 60 frames per second for you guys that know what I'm talking about. And you have to spend at least $1,000 and a half to get 60 frames per second at 1080p anywhere, and the Sony a6000 does that. So 1080p is like a step below 4K, and the frames per second determine how much you can how many pictures are taken per second, basically. So if I film at 60 frames per second, I can slow the footage down and make it into slow motion much easier and smoother, because I have many more frames being taken per second, as opposed to if I filmed at 30 frames per second. If I film at 60 frames per second, I can slow that footage down much easier, and the quality will still be there in the picture. That's what I mean by that, the ability to go to 60 frames per second. And there's not many cameras that offer that capability. And you have to spend money to be able to have that capability, and I have that with this small camera. So the question is do you need it? And I think these are the issues that consumers are dealing with. Do you go for a second-hand 6D? If you're a photographer, you can't go wrong with that camera, or even a 5D now. They're just $1,000 now. Why would you go for the brand new, sparkling new 2,000, 3,000 camera? I think a lot of people are buying used cameras as well. So there's value here, there's value issues, and I think that the prices for cameras probably need to come down a bit in order for them to really sell them again. Because, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're selling really well on a general basis, but I think that the sales will only really peak when the prices come down to the value in which it actually offers. And I think also the hassle of changing brands can be a real pain. I've done it a few times, and it's a real pain because you've got to change all your gadgets, all the bits that go with your camera, your lenses, and so people are less likely to change. It's harder. Is it worth it? You've got to spend all that money, then you've got to learn a whole new system. I don't think the upgrades, like for instance the Canon 6D has a 6D Mark II, and unless you're doing video, there really is no reason why you would switch to the 6D Mark II and spend the extra. Other than that, if you're doing video, then it makes sense, of course, because the 6D Mark II is much better at video. It's got autofocus, got flip screen, it's got lots of things. But if you're just taking pictures, the 6D is more than adequate. In fact, it's probably better than the 6D II. So there's not a lot. The camera manufacturers are struggling to come up with reasons to buy a new camera as well. For the pros, I'm talking. And obviously the non-pros, they are also having camera phones now. So I think those two are some of the main reasons why camera sales maybe suffer a little bit in the meantime, but it could pick up in the future, of course. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I don't want to waffle on for too long. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on what I think about those reports saying that camera sales are dropping and is photography dying. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be obviously posting more videos. Make sure you click the like button if you like the video, you like the discussion. If you have anything you want to add to the conversation, please join me, get a cup, let's have a chat, let's have a conversation. And also, if you want to just subscribe, so then obviously you'll know about future videos, get that done. And then obviously tick the notifications, and then you'll know when videos are obviously being posted. You'll be the first to know, you'll be first in there. So thank you so much for joining me, and cheers. Have a good evening. God bless.